Hello, Anna. I'm
Hello,
happy to be with you during this time
You're
to
most
talk
welcome.
about your work and your experience and your thoughts. And to start, I'd like.
I feel honored that you invite me. So.
Oh, thank you. To start, I'd like you to use some time to present yourself for our Brazilian TA colleagues who you are now.
Okay, that's the most complex question you can ever ask someone. But I can give you a very brief resume of what I did. And I am Anne de Graff. I am based in the Netherlands. I was introduced to TA in 1982. And in the 90s of last century, I got intrigued by the topic of organizations and groups. So besides TA, I did a lot of study in psychoanalysis, the Tavistock stream, to be more accurate. So I went to London quite often to get a deeper understanding of what you could call the emotional structure of any group or organization. I worked as a consultant for, I think, 30 years. And over the last 12 years, I was the director of the Dutch TA Academy. And recently I retired.
But I know that you, wonderful. And I know that you are working a lot besides you are retired.
Yeah, my wife would burst out in laugh when I say I'm retired. She said, no, you're not retired. Yeah, in name you are retired, but so I still work a lot with organizations. I have 2 TA qualifications in the organizational field and in the field of psychotherapy, which is quite useful, I can tell you. And I still do a lot of consultancy for, mainly boardroom work, to be honest. I'd like to work with the management teams, CEOs, executives of organizations. And so I do a lot of traveling to teach them TA and to make them have a deeper understanding of what's going on in their organization or group.
Yeah, and this is the reason for this conversation. You published in 2013 the article, "The Group in the Individual, Lessons Learned from Working with and in Organizations and Groups." And in our conversation, I would like, Anna, to highlight some topics in your article and explore your view today, as we are living in a different world with pandemic stuff and COVID, post-COVID.
Fire away. So what is it you're particularly interested in?
Yeah, as organization consultant and trainer, you mentioned in your article about anxiety, fear, and courage. You said only when you have the courage to allow the real group dynamics to come to the surface, can you start organizing and structuring in order for the group to do its work. Yeah, and this is about
that's very important. That's very, very important. Let me start somewhere else. First of all, you will never ever understand an organization when you only observe it from the outside. To really get to know what a group or organization is about, you need to be part of it. You need to enter that organization and allow the organization to enter you. So yes, you will get your hands and feet dirty. That's why working as a consultant in and with organizations, you should do regular supervision, because supervision is your opportunity to to study, to explore the dirt I was talking about, to really get to know what it's about, because organization will have an effect on you. Yeah, you might be confused, you might feel deluded, you might have any other experience, and supervision is the means to study what's going on. So please remember, you will never understand a group or organization by only looking at it from the outside. You need to be willing to get to the inside. Secondly, and once you are on the inside, you notice, and this was a big invention by Eric Berne, you notice that it's not the rational structure, but the emotional structure. Mm-hmm. Eric Berne calls that the public structure and the private structure. Mm-hmm. So the public structure, everything that's on paper and everything that you hear and people talk about, that's the public structure, as opposed to the private structure. The private structure, that's the emotional structure of the organization. And in fact, organizations and groups are emotional entities. So how people are affected by that company or by that group, that will influence how they behave. Yeah, if there's a lot of fear going on or anger. Yeah, recently I work with a hospital, mm-hmm. with a group of specialists in a hospital, and boy, they are so angry. But they don't allow the anger. You can hear it in their tone of voice. You can see it in the way they walk, they behave. It's in their non-verbal expression. Yeah, the hypothesis is that they are so angry. Yeah, and the only way out for them is to bring it to the surface and to find a consultant, like me, for instance, to help them to get it to the surface and to make exploration, to find out what that means. What is the anger telling them? Mm-hmm. By the way, they're all males. Most angry males are scared. Yeah. Anger is a typical male record for scare. Yeah, so first of all, we need to allow them to have the anger at the surface, and then to find out that basically that anger is a cover-up for their scare. And I'm intrigued, what are they scared about? What's the fear for them? And what does the fear tell them in order? Yeah, and it will affect me, because I might feel anger as well. I might feel fear as well. That's what I call the dirt once you are inside your organization. So it's not the rational, but the emotional structure of the organization that needs addressing. And yes, it asks some courage to allow that to come to the surface. Yeah. Now I'm a consultant, so I get in, I get out. But once you are the manager of that team, the leader, that might scare you, that fear and that scare and that anger that's going on. So yeah, you need to be a courageous person to manage. Yeah. Is that helpful in any way?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm curious, in a practical way, as consultant, in this case that you mentioned, the hospital, what kind of activity you provide for the group to have a safe space to talk about emotions?
Yeah, so that's another topic. I've written about that also in the TAJ, in another article, mm-hmm. to have a safe space to explore. Yeah, I think it's an illusion that places can be totally safe. Mm-hmm. It's more that you need to deal with unsafe experiences, with the scare that comes with it, than to wait till everything's safe. So obviously there needs to be a certain level of security and safety in order to allow the anger and scare to come to the surface. what I most of the time do is just create a experience for them to get to know one another. Mm-hmm. Most board members don't really know one another, and that's scary. So you're in a boardroom on a weekly basis. You have a meeting or 3 or 4 hours every week, or maybe twice a week sometimes, and you really don't know the one that's sitting next to you. You don't know nothing about his script. You don't know where he comes from. You don't understand his behavior, and that might be scary. So I quite often start with helping them to get to know one another a bit better. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite introduction questions is, then I tell the board members that, please share something about yourself and answer the question and tell them, if you really knew me, you would know that. I repeat, so if you really knew me, you would know that. And having that for a start in a team, they share stuff they have never shared. A lot of script stuff, where they come from, what they have gone through, what they survived, what they endured, etc. So that's number one. So I create, that does not necessarily make it more safe, but it makes it more bearable, that you know that the one next to you is not crazy, but just has a script, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's one. Second thing, what I do a lot of exercises for them to allow the emotional structure to come to the surface. And I make agreements that if you feel fear or anger or sadness and you express that, yeah, you should immediately after you express that, tell the team and ask the team, is there anyone else? You'll find it in my article. Is there anyone else who also? Because the most dreadful thing we can go through is that we might be very afraid that we are the only ones that feel the anger or the fear or the sadness, and just hold it. Yeah, but you will never. That's also in the article. You are never the only one. There is at least one other, but most of the time there are more. So if you say, well, I very much look up to being in the boardroom. I really don't look forward to being here. Then you should say, anyone else, and look around you. Yeah. So they see, okay, I'm not the only one that that doesn't look forward to these meetings. And once 2 or 3 or 4 others say, yeah, me too. I don't feel like going to this meeting at all. Then part of what I call the emotions can come to the surface, and then it can be explored and addressed. Because as you know, feelings are feelings are a signal of a need, an expressed need, but an unmet need. So what does the fear tell you? What need is not met? And then you get a totally different discussion and debate in the boardroom, a discussion or debate they never had. Yeah, because they're not, they're too scared to bring this to the surface, they start playing games. Yeah, you remember Eric Berne saying, when intimacy threatens, you can always start a game. Yeah, I'm quoting Eric Berne. And I said, so when we really are on the threshold of a real encounter, that's the word I use in organizations. I don't use the word intimacy. When we're at the threshold of a real encounter, and we really are on the threshold of meeting one another, that might be so scary that people start playing games. Because the main reason why people play games is to avoid intimacy, or to avoid, as I say in organizations, a real encounter. So a lot of games are played in boardrooms. Instead of having this real encounter, and the real encounter is most of the time connected to the emotional structure, the emotional layer in the team of directors or whatever team it is.
And thinking in intimacy and encounter, there is another part in your article that I like it very much. It's about the silence. When we have a silent person or a group of silence, or the silence in certain moment in the group, I'm thinking the meaning of the silence could be when I have contact with my feelings or the others' feelings.
Yeah, the fact that someone is not speaking does not mean, I quote my article, that he has nothing to say. Yeah, the fact that someone is not speaking does not mean that he has nothing to say. He might have to say a lot, but for some reason, he is withholding himself, he is scared to speak up, or whatever that might be going on. So if I'm the consultant and I notice that someone is silent, I will invite him to speak up. And well, I just share my observation that we are now working for 90 minutes and he did not speak up yet. And then I ask, I'm wondering what's going on for you. Are you willing to share that with us? And if he or she does, then I say, okay, anyone else? And then the silent one will experience that there are more people not speaking out what they really want to say. And the defense mechanism of this typical person is falling silent, but other people talk a lot and don't say anything. So that might be the same pattern beneath that, and the silent one has just learned from his or her script that it's better to be silent, while another one might have learned from his or her script to use a lot of words. It's a signal that things are not spoken out in the boardroom. It's my task, your task, our task as GA professionals to help them to be as permissive as we can be, for them to allow that fear to come up to the surface so it can be addressed and needs can be met. Emotion, by the way, emotion is motion, in English comes from the same roots. I don't know about Portuguese, but emotion is motion. So emotion is energy. So if you don't allow that emotion to come, if you allow that to come to the surface, you will be energized. And then the question, how will we use that energy?
The word for us is emoção, and ação is action.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, remember your article, the opposite is so true. You said when someone expresses something in the group, it is not only about her or him, but in name of the group. Can you say more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in a way, when we are part of a group, we are not only connected with our own individual script, but we also are connected with the group script. So this this interwovenness of the group script and the personal script makes that when one speaks, one always speaks on behalf of the group. That's why you need to teach people living and working in and with groups to always ask the famous question, I already addressed it several times, anyone else? Because in a way, most people in a group are afraid to speak out because they're afraid that they're the only one. And they will be kicked out when, there might be shame going on. Yeah, so once you ask the question, you speak up and you say, anyone else, you'll notice that you are not alone, that you're not only speaking for yourself, but you're only also expressing stuff for the others in the room.
Yeah. I remember a quote about that a child will never learn what makes a car by disassembling
it.
The car.
You read that somewhere in my article. That's true.
Yes, and it's amazing, this metaphor that you use it, because in my experience as a consultant in organizations, many times I was invited to look by part of this car, because there is another consultant, another vendor taking care of another part of this car. And how is difficult to work only with part of this car, doesn't have this context in mind.
Yeah. Happy that you bring that to our attention, Michelle, because that's so true, and that's also true for a human being. Yeah, we are a wonderful blend of all kinds of stories. Yeah, you might want to start coming seminar with your colleagues with asking them the following question. Tell them to introduce themselves without categorizing themselves as belonging to a group. That's quite tough. Because if you say, hello, I'm a female from Brazil, but there are a lot of females in Brazil. Yeah, if you say, well, I studied TA, well, there are a lot of, so most things we say about ourselves, we are categorizing ourselves as belonging to a group. Yeah, and what makes you different from me, what makes you unique, is that you have your unique blend of all these stories. Yeah, and then here's the car metaphor. If you pick out one story, you'll never understand who Michelle is, never. You need to find out this wonderful blend of all these stories, all these scripts in TA terms, that makes you the unique person you are. And indeed, what we should not do is to pick out one or two. Yeah, if you pick the motor or the steering wheel from a car and you show that to someone, he will never know what a car is. Never. He will never have to understand the concept of a car. So you need to be respectful to all these, and there might be dozens of those stories in the blend you made. Yeah, and being a TA student is just one of them.
Yeah, wonderful. I have a last question in mind for you. Having the pandemic context in mind, Anna, and everything that changed in terms of group work in organizations, no more physically together, working at home, this kind of thing, remote working. What do you think is the major impact for us as consultants, working remote too, working by Zoom, for example, in this context?
Well, what first comes to my mind, what I see happening over here in the Netherlands, is that most people are going back to the old normal. Yeah, like oh, let's go back to how we left the world before COVID, the COVID outbreak, and that makes me think that change is quite difficult for people to get out of your comfortable zone you lived in for so many years. Yeah, once the COVID broke out, also in me there was hope. Okay, this might be the moment we're going to see some change. Less car driving, less flights from airports. People will behave differently to one another. But I'm getting a bit disappointed when I see what's going on right now. So in those days, I thought, okay, so we need to help organizations to deal with the difference. But I don't know if at the moment we have our autumn holiday here in the Netherlands, and if you go to the airport, you see, oh boy, yeah, hundreds of thousands of passengers keep on flying, seems to discount all the threats of climate change, etc. So change is quite a difficult issue. It's a different topic. We could talk about that in our next interview if you wish. But that's first thing that comes to my mind.
Thank you. Well, we are more than 30 minutes together, and I'd like to thank you.
Are we?
Yeah, and not only about being here with myself and my colleagues, Anna, but to express your experience, your thoughts and your feelings in an article. This is part of legacy, and it's very important for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it is. It is. And the first reason why I do the writing is to create a better understanding for myself. And then I'm always happy when people like you are willing to read it and to approach me and to have this exchange. And if there's anything that comes from the meeting coming week that you'd like to ask me, just send me an email. Feel free to share my email address with your colleagues. They'll find me, and I'll answer their questions to my best knowledge.
Thank you. See you soon.
Yeah, I see you on Thursday.